Okay, so you're a white person. You're adopting a person of color. You should be informed about white saviorism. What is it? How do we avoid it? How do we ensure that we are not applying that lens to our own adoption and our own children? How do we move forward in a good way? It's so very important that they do not get the message that where they come from is less than, that where we come from is better than, and that we are swooping in to save them. That is not the case. And if you believe that that is the case, it's time for you to do some work. And that's why I'm here, to help you to identify what areas that you need some work in and to actively move towards that, because it's okay. We all have areas that we are not informed as we'd like to be. We all have areas where we are more judgmental than we would like to be. And all that we can do is to keep working on that. So thank you for being here. The white savior in adoption is the idea that adopting an orphan from a developing country is saving them to fulfill a selfish need, such as getting into heaven. It is the idea and the assumption that white people inherently know what is best for people of color, or what they need. The fact that many people choose to adopt internationally or locally a person of color, Black, Indigenous, or otherwise, to save them from a life of poverty, crime, or even their culture. White saviorism continues to enforce the false narratives that people of color need strong white leaders to show them the way, that they need white educators to guide them, that they require white people to save them. These are all false. These narratives imply that people of color have ignorance and helplessness that they need rescuing from. And that is just not true. Unfortunately, our media supports these false narratives through our news, our TV, and movies. Movies such as The Help and even Avatar demonstrate the need for the superior culture to rescue the other. This is, of course, false and very racist. It's just not true. It is oppression in its current form and continued injustice that really prevent a real positive change in our society. We as adoptive parents and as people, as adults living in this society, need to be cautious of our language and the messages that we are sending so we can change this narrative. I truly believe that if our society as a whole, the whole world, yes, I'm that girl, could have social programming that supports birth mothers to be sound and well, that there would be less of a need for adoption. And this is coming from the place of being a prospective adoptive mother. I'm now matched with my children, and I am so very happy that international adoption was an option for me. That does not mean that I don't see the reality of the situation, or that I don't wish that my children could have stayed with their first family, if that was at all possible for them. But who am I? I'm just a girl who's lived a very hard life and found her way to a beautiful one. Sometimes lacking privilege is the very best privilege. We want to ensure that we are opening our minds and our hearts to a variety of information from a variety of sources, not just people who look like us and believe in what we believe in. Now, there is another misconception in adoption that altruism exempts you from racism. That I have adopted a brown child and therefore I can no longer be racist, even if I do or say things that are racist. This should be called out. Now, it should be called out kindly when there's no harm intended, but it still does need to be addressed. We should not allow any language or actions around or towards our children that demeans them in any way, particularly about their culture or their race. We want to support those things and remind them how beautiful they are. As adoptive parents, and especially as white adoptive parents of colored children, it is our jobs to be anti-racist, which means calling it out, naming it, and calling it out when we see it. We need to let our children know that it will not be tolerated, that they do not need to tolerate it, and neither do we. Now, another one of my personal beliefs is that adoption is not about saving anyone. Adoption is about the fact that children belong in families. That's it. For me, that has always been the pull, that there are so many children out there that do not have safe, loving, caring homes, and they deserve that. Every child deserves the bare minimum of love, safety, respect, and having their needs met. Adoption is simply the best opportunity for these particular children to have the best growth and development possible. And that supports the true reason behind any parenting, which is to raise healthy, functional adults, to give these children the best opportunity for their best life. Of course, white people can be effective, loving parents to children of another race, but we must be willing to do a few things. Namely, we need to actively examine and address our own internal biases, because we all have them, based on our life experience, where we were born into, how we were raised. We have different belief systems, and it is up to us to look internally at those belief systems and decide if we still believe them and what language we may be using that enforces them. Is there any change needed? Now, we also need to actively talk to our children about race and racism throughout their lives. This is an ongoing discussion that needs to happen. Especially in Western cultures, people of color have to deal with racism. It is a fact. It's a very unfortunate fact. And we need to support our children so that they are prepared to deal with the reality of the society that they live in. That's part of our jobs. Additionally, we need to support a positive connection with our child's birth culture. Whether that's another country, whether it's their food, their religion, their spirit, their art, we want to embrace it fully in a positive way so that our child only looks at their culture and their heritage in a positive way. They'll model off of us. Additionally, I have no desire in whitewashing my kids. Do not whitewash your kids. We want to layer ourselves in culture. How much culture can we fold in? It is important to have different perspective in our world. And it is really vital that our children see that as well. We want to shine a light on voices and organizations that continue to do anti-racist work, that continue to support the voices of adoptees and people of color. Additionally, we want to do more than just words for these organizations. We want our children to see that we are active in our pursuits for fairness and equality. This can be through time, volunteering, it can be through donations, but it's really excellent that your children actively see this contribution. So with all of this in mind, What are you actively doing in your world to be an anti-racist? So in closing, the most important advice I can give is that being a loving parent does not exempt us from racism. You can love your child and still actively participate in their oppression with the language that you use. And it can be subtle, so we want to be aware. Part of loving our children in this is to be able to say that I am a white individual who had the privilege of adopting, who had a choice in a decision that drastically impacted someone else's life without their consent. And because of this, I will never know what it's like to be in their shoes, to be a person of color or an adoptee that constantly stands out in a white society or a white family. I can't know that. And love is understanding that. Now, love also says that if I do or say anything that puts you in a place of harm or hurt, I want to know that so that I can actively change, because I do not want to hurt you. Love also says that I wanted this family. I choose you. That adoption is providing a need to be met for me as well. In a way, adoption is saving me. I've always wanted to be a mother, and I get that. How beautiful is that? So love is being able to say that I am going to show up for my children every single day, that I'm going to continue to learn and to grow and to face the hard stuff because I love them and because they deserve the very best parent possible. And I hope that we would all look at adoption and parenting in this way. It's important for our children, and it is vital for our society. Thanks so much for being here. Till next time. You are learning and growing, and your family will be better because of it. Be blessed. All right, remember to do the things like subscribe, hit the ring-a-ding-dong button. I appreciate you.